Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are jumping into all of the makeup in my IPSY and BOXYCHARM boxes for the month. This is going to be a full try-on. This is how we got this look today. I don't love the colors. Everything was super warm, so I did have to cool it down a little bit. But I do think the skin looks really good, and I think we ended up getting somewhere that I'm not upset about. So if you want to see how we got here and all of the products tried today, make sure to keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe because I upload every other day. That'll be the best way to stay up to date and all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to jump into this demo with me today with all of these IPSY and BOXYCHARM products, stay tuned. All right, jumping on in, I've already done concealer and no foundation. I did already set with the Dominique Cosmetic Translucent Setting Powder, which claims to be blurring. I have no foundation on. This is just some concealer in some targeted areas and the setting powder on top, which I actually think is doing a really great job of blurring. I am, I'm not getting a super matte finish. Everything feels a little satiny. We still feel like skin, which I kind of like. I'm not a huge fan of an overly matte setting powder. I can always mattify later, but I do want it to still feel and look like skin. I did also use the Slay Miss Glam brush to use that setting powder, both out of the IPSY and BOXYCHARMs for the month. I am going to go in with the Cab Hydrating Setting Mist, and I'm not actually going to spray it on the face. I'm going to spray that onto my sponge, and I'm just going to use that to press into the setting powder. You can absolutely mist it on the face if that's what you want to do, but I find when I'm doing like a glam look with super full coverage, I'll mist on the face. But on a day like today where I'm more interested in, no makeup and everything really looking and feeling like skin, this is just a better option. All right, moving on out of the Icon box. This is the Anastasia Cream Bronzer in the shade Caramel. And I am going to take that, I think I'm going to do the back of a sponge. That feels like the best option. So I'm going to just pick up a little bit here. And we're going to target on top of the cheekbone. That's very warm. That might be too warm for me. So I'm just going to switch to the side of the sponge and with no additional product, blend, blend, blend. It's giving a little bit of warmth, which it should, of course. But it still feels very, yellowy in tone. Bronzers are supposed to be warm, but on my complexion, which is very pink, if it becomes too warm, it'll almost look like a stripe of yellow on the face, which just doesn't feel natural. Fortunately, the Primrose palette does have a bronzer in there, which is still very warm, but we will be able to, kind of go back and forth and layer a few of those colors together and go from there. And the thing with this is if you take the time to blend, 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 it will feel and look pretty natural. Like it's definitely giving a little contour to the skin. It's definitely adding some radiance and warmth, but we are taking our sweet time to blend it all together. All right, it's definitely not bad. It's blending, the formula's okay, but it just might not be the right color for me. I'm going to take a little bit more of that setting powder and just set down the cheek. I don't want to go in with a powder bronzer right on top or it'll get patchy. So really just adding a tiny bit of a powder on top will make that powder bronzer blend a little better. All right, I have both the rest of the SL Miss Glam brushes as well as the Alamar eye brushes. So I'll use those ones for eye. I'm going to take these two for bronzer and blush. So I'm going to take Saddle, that bronzer shade, and I'm going to use the same brush. Oof, a lot of pigment comes up. I'm going to just dot that off on a little cloth in front of me, and I am going to gently add a little bit of this. Yeah, it's getting a little patchy even though we set it down. So we're just going to take our time and just keep blending. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it is definitely grabbing to certain areas on the cheek, and I did set it down with powder first. So that's not really working in my favor. So on that same brush, I'm going to take Grapefruit, the blush shade, which is much, much lighter. And I'm going to pat that over and blend it in and hope that that will kind of mesh those two colors together. So this is a very pigmented bronzer and blush formula. Definitely too heavy. Definitely is not blending out nicely. So we're going to take that sponge and just press those into the cheek. And then I'm actually going to take more of that setting powder, and I'm going to press that on top as well, just to, again, sort of veil that product and take down that intensity. And once that powder is everywhere, we're just going to press it over. This is something you can do whenever you go in with a little too much product or it doesn't blend. And you see how it just softens everything, gives it a little more of that airbrush finish, and takes it back to not looking overpowering or underblended. Yeah, it's still not perfect. I don't like the color. I feel like it's not what I would typically go for, but at least it looks a little more smooth and intentional. I'm gonna go back in with a little more of that mist and press that over. I will probably end up going in with like a more mauve tone blush just to blend it all together, because the color is not really right for me. I'm going to go right into the eyes, and I think we're going to use the same palette. Whereas with our bronzers and our blushes, we don't want a ton of pigment. We want it to be able to be sheared out. We don't mind a lot of pigment when it comes to eyeshadow. So I'm going to start with the shade Honey right here, and I'm going to just press that into the crease, and then taking a little more on the brush, and I'm going to blend back and forth. So in the pan, this looked like a very neutral taupey shadow. On the eye, it is reading very warm. So just be mindful, if you have more of a cool undertone, that these colors do read much warmer on the eye than they do in the pan. Taking a tiny bit of the shade Mango, which is a very peachy nude color, on that same brush, I'm just going to blend the edges just to diffuse this. Because again, we kind of want this to be a wash of color. We're not going for a smoky eye. So we're just going to use these two matte shades to add some definition to the eye. And then I'm going to go in just with a single shimmer on the lid. And it's going to be a super easy smoky, not smoky eye. Switching to the packing brush from Alamar, I'm going to take those same shades mixed together, and I'm just going to run that on the lower lash line and connect it to the outer lash line. And then switching to the last brush from the IPSY GLAM, I'm just going to blend that all together. All right. To the flat-headed Alamar brush, I'm going to go into the shade, I think I'm going to take Deep Berry, this purple, and I'm going to take a very small amount, and I'm just going to go very close to my waterline. I'm not taking a lot of this color. We don't even really want this color to be super visible. We're going to blend it into those other colors. We do just want to use that back to that first brush, just to add a little more definition and shape to the eye. Once again on that fluffy brush, just blending it all together. All right, on my finger, I'm going to go into the shade Rosewater, which is this metallic champagne. It did come broken in my palette, but I did just press it. It is a champagne, but it has like a pink glitter in it. And I'm going to pull that all along the lid. And then with that domed brush, we're just going to buff the edges. It's actually a really pretty color, and it does feel very no makeup. On that domed brush with that same Rosewater shade, I'm just going to pull that color around the inner corner. Normally I would not use such a fluffy brush for this, but I'm trying to only use the brushes that came in the box and just see what happens. And then I'm going to switch back to that very first brush, and we're just going to blend around the whole thing. All right, very pretty. Even though it was a bunch of like cooler tones, it still is reading very warm on the eye. So do be mindful that it looks like a very cool tone palette. It acts like a very warm tone palette. And that's not like a bad thing, but take that as it may. I am going to take the last Glam brush. This is the face brush. And I'm going to take Rose Water, that shade we used on the eye. And I'm just going to dust a tiny bit of that over the cheek as a highlight. Because why not? And again, because I really just want to use what was in my boxes. All right, once again, I am going to spray my sponge and just press out the cheek. Anytime I put a powder on the cheek, I like to do this just to bring everything back to life. The brushes are good. I think I liked them. The spray is working. No issues there. The bronzer definitely felt a little warm, but I think we got somewhere that I can work with. I really like the powder. I think that's going to be the standout for me. We have two more makeup items that came in the box. One is the Soft Glam 2 palette, which very pretty, actually, this feels like it might actually be more neutral cool than this one by the time you get it on the eyes. But I'm not going to use this today just because I don't need more eyeshadows. And we have a lipstick in the shade Warm Peach, which I think will work with this eye, but it might be a little bit light. I'm going to try it out, and if I have to go in with a liner to deepen it up, I will. Oh yeah, we need a liner. All right, I'm going to take a nude liner. This one is Crush from Dominique Cosmetics. And then we're going to add that peach in the center. I will always try to make these warm peachy lipsticks work. And I feel like they never work with my complexion. It's just the way my coloring is. So I'm going to pop a pink gloss on top just to tone it down. And we'll see if I like that more. Definitely better once we cooled it off with more pink gloss. But now I feel like the face is very washed out. So we're going to grab a mauve-y blush. This is She's Seductive from Patrick Ta, which is just one of the blushes on hand that I know is a really pretty undertone for me. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this to the cheek because it is going to, help from washing me out because I do need a little more color to the face. But it's also a color that's a little more cool toned to, sort of complement my face. Just like before, pressing it all together with the sponge. All right, I think that's about the best we can fix that color. And altogether, I don't think it looks bad. I think my skin actually looks really good now that we've balanced those colors, but it was a lot of work to get here. I think the Anastasia products just all collectively, the palette, the lip, and the bronzer just read very warm on me. My skin is super pink. I'm a very cool toned individual. So when you do go in with that sort of warm toned flush, it has to be neutral warm, not very warm. I had the same thing when I tried the Anastasia foundation years ago. Even the cool tones are too yellow and too warm for me. Other than that, I do think it all turned out pretty well. As always, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!